Don't forget that this tutorial is part of a series of tutorials which you can access on our YouTube playlist, or alternatively, if you would like to, you can purchase the whole course on Udemy. There should be a link to the YouTube playlist and a link to our Udemy course, which should always provide the best price in the video description. In Django models, the choices option is used to limit the valid values that a particular field can have. It's often used with fields like character fields and integer fields to provide a predefined set of choices. So let's take a look at how we can implement Django model choices. Generally, if we are going to create specific functionality for a model, a Django model class, then we should be working with inside of that class. So let's consider an example where we have a product model with a status field. I've included a status field. Now you can decide whether you want to include this field as we work through this section of the course. I will remove it once I've demonstrated the use of a choices option. Our goal is to limit what can be stored into this status field. We're going to predefine what will be selectable by the user to insert into this field. So this field is going to contain is in stock, out of stock, or back ordered. So those are the three options that we can assign and insert into this field. So one approach is that we can assign a suitably named constant for each value. So in stock, we had out of stock, and back ordered. We can then define a value which we want to use to actually store in the field in the database. So here we might make an abbreviation. So IS is in stock. We might have out of stock, OOS, and then we might have back order. Of course, we could use anything we wanted. This is just an example. So these are the values that will actually be stored in the field. Now remember, we're only going to select one of them, so not all of these values will be stored in the field at the same time. Now, if we were to automate the process of selecting and updating this field, of course, we would just select from one of these options and insert the text related to the particular status of our product. Now we want to facilitate the idea that a user might select from a drop-down list 3 options and choose the status of the stock. So let's set this up. So let's start with stock status, and then we'll go ahead and build a dictionary. So let's specify the 3 options that we have already defined. So first of all is in stock. Now this needs to match our constants up here. So in stock, and that represents in stock. So this is a human readable option that's going to be used, for example, in the Django admin dropdown, or maybe in some sort of form when we update the product. So we have in stock, we need a comma, and then we have out of stock, and then finally back order. Now we can go ahead and finish. The field type will be the character field. Now remember that will have a mandatory max length. We'll set that to 3. So if we take a look at our code, that's going to be set to 3 because what's going to be stored in this field is either IS, OOS, or BO. So the maximum is going to be OOS. Right, so the max length is 3. Now if I use a comma afterwards and press save, you can see Black will format that into a nice list, which can make it easier to read all the different options. So we have max length, and now we can define our choices. So that's going to be our dictionary that we created. So that is the stock status. So that's our stock status options. And then finally, the last option, what we can do is also set a default. So typically, if we don't select anything, what do we want to be the default option? Well, let's go for out of stock, so OOS. Now remember, OOS is the actual value we want to insert. So in actual fact, we want to set the out of stock. So that's the constant holding the value OOS. Now, if you take a look through the Django documentation for choices, there's a little bit to read through, as well as some different options or approaches for defining options list. So here we have enumeration types. Django provides, as it describes, enumeration types that we can use to subclass to define choices in what it describes as a more concise way. On reflection, it seems a good idea to actually include that field in the product. So when we start querying the tables, it just gives us some additional options to consider. So I have renamed the field to stock status. That probably is a little bit more descriptive than just status, for example. So I'll go ahead and update that in the database ERD. So let's go ahead and update the field to stock status. And there we have our choices field.